Have you ever felt a shiver run down your spine, even when you were completely alone? A feeling that you were being watched. If you love stories that make you think and make your heart beat a little faster, then make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, SpeakBits English, right now. You won't want to miss a single story we have for you. Now, turn down the lights and listen closely. The inheritance came as a complete surprise. Liam, a young historian who spent most of his time in dusty libraries, had never even met his great-uncle, Arthur. The lawyer's letter was short and formal. It said that Arthur had left him a small property, a cottage on a remote island off the coast. Its name was Storm's End. 2 weeks later, Liam stood on a small fishing boat, the salty sea spray hitting his face. The island was just a dark shape on the horizon, getting bigger and bigger. It wasn't a friendly-looking place. It was a mass of dark gray rock rising from a churning gray sea. At its highest point stood an old stone lighthouse, tall and silent, like a forgotten soldier. And just below it, clinging to the rocks, was a small stone cottage, Storm's End. "Not many visitors here," the boatman shouted over the engine's noise. "Your great-uncle was the last lighthouse keeper. He disappeared 50 years ago. People say the sea took him." Liam felt a chill that had nothing to do with the wind. Disappeared. The word hung in the air. The cottage was small, solid, and smelled of salt and old wood. It was basic, with a fireplace, a small kitchen, and one bedroom. It felt like a place where time had stopped. An old calendar on the wall was still turned to August 1973. Liam felt a strange mix of excitement and unease. This was a piece of history, his history. He spent the first day exploring. He found old books, charts of the stars, and simple wooden furniture. It was in a dusty wooden box on a high shelf that he found the first real puzzle. It was a compass. But it was unlike any compass he had ever seen. It was not made of brass or steel, but of a dark, smooth wood that felt warm to the touch. The glass was thick, and under it the needle wasn't a simple arrow. It was shaped like a silver feather. Liam held it flat in his palm, expecting the feather to point north. It didn't. The silver feather spun slowly, then came to a stop, pointing directly at the fireplace in the center of the cottage's main room. Liam frowned. He walked to the other side of the room. The feather quivered, then turned, still pointing at the exact same spot, the fireplace. It wasn't a compass. It was a pointer. But what was it pointing to? His historian's curiosity took over. He examined the fireplace carefully. It was made of large, dark stones. He ran his hands over them, feeling for anything unusual. His fingers found a stone that was slightly loose. With a grunt, he pulled at it. It came free, revealing a dark, hollow space behind. Inside the space was a small, leather-bound journal. His heart hammered in his chest. He gently pulled it out. The leather was old and worn. He opened it to the first page. The handwriting was neat and clear. It was dated January 1973. It was his great-uncle Arthur's journal. He sat down and began to read. For the first few months, the entries were normal. Arthur wrote about the weather, the ships that passed, the birds. But then the tone began to change. April 12, 1973. There is a sound at night, not the wind, not the sea. It is a low hum, a vibration that comes from the island itself. I feel it in the stone floor. May 5, 1973. I found something today while repairing the lighthouse lantern. A carving, hidden behind the main lens. It is ancient. It is not from any culture I recognize. And it matches the design on the wooden compass my grandfather left me. Liam's eyes widened. The compass. He read on, his fascination growing. June 21, 1973. The compass is not a guide for the sea. It is a key. I believe it points to something hidden, something the lighthouse was not built to warn ships about, but to protect. I feel I am being watched. Sometimes, out of the corner of my eye, I see a shadow move where no shadow should be. July 30th, 1973. I am close. I have figured out the mechanism. The hum is louder now. The secret of Storm's End is not a treasure of gold or jewels. It is something far older, far more important. I must protect it. I have decided to leave. I will make it look like an accident. No one must follow me. No one must find what is hidden here. That was the last entry. Liam closed the journal, his mind racing. Disappeared? No. His great-uncle had run away. He had faked his own disappearance to protect a secret. A secret hidden in the lighthouse. As if on cue, the weather began to change. The sky, which had been a uniform gray, turned a dark, angry purple. The wind began to howl, and rain began to hammer against the windows. The boatman had told him he would be back in 3 days, but this looked like a big storm. Liam was trapped. He looked at the strange wooden compass in his hand. The silver feather was no longer pointing at the fireplace. Now it was pointing directly at the cottage door, and beyond it, towards the old lighthouse. A cold wave of fear and determination washed over Liam. The journal, the compass, the storm, it was all happening for a reason. He had to know the secret his great-uncle had died, or at least disappeared, to protect. He put on a heavy waterproof coat, grabbed a powerful flashlight, and stepped out into the storm. The wind nearly knocked him off his feet. Rain flew horizontally, stinging his face like tiny needles. He held the compass tightly, its silver feather steady, pointing him towards the tall stone tower. The lighthouse door was heavy and locked with a thick rusty chain. But Arthur's journal had mentioned a key, hidden under a specific rock shaped like a sleeping seal. After a few tense moments of searching in the blinding rain, Liam found it. The key was old and iron. It turned in the lock with a loud, protesting groan. The door swung open into blackness. Liam stepped inside, out of the wind. The door slammed shut behind him, plunging him into absolute silence and darkness. The only sound was his own ragged breathing. He switched on his flashlight. The beam cut a bright circle in the darkness, revealing a spiraling stone staircase that went up, up, up into the throat of the tower. He held up the compass. The feather pointed upwards. His footsteps echoed as he began to climb. The air was cold and damp. He felt a heavy sense of being somewhere he shouldn't be. The words from the journal came back to him. I feel I am being watched. He swept his flashlight beam around, but saw nothing but stone walls and shadows. He climbed higher and higher. Finally, he reached the top, the lantern room. It was a circular room surrounded by thick glass. In the center was the huge, magnificent lighthouse lens, a complex structure of glass that throws light from miles out to sea. It was dark and lifeless now. The compass was spinning wildly. Liam looked around, his flashlight beam dancing across the walls. The journal had mentioned a carving behind the lens. He moved carefully around the giant glass structure. And there it was. On the wall behind the main lens, almost invisible in the shadows, was a carving. It was a complex spiral, the same design as the one on the compass. In the center of the carved spiral was a small round indentation, a hole. It looked like something was supposed to fit inside it. Liam looked at the compass in his hand. The back of the wooden device had a small raised circle that was the exact same size. With a trembling hand, he placed the compass into the indentation. It clicked perfectly into place. For a moment, nothing happened. Liam's heart sank. Had he been wrong? Then he heard this, a low, grinding sound. The sound of stone on stone. One of the large, heavy flagstones on the floor began to move. Slowly, it slid sideways, revealing a dark, square opening, a hidden compartment. Liam knelt, aiming his flashlight into the hole. He saw a small metal box. He reached in and lifted it out. It was heavy. He placed it on the floor and, with shaking fingers, opened the lid. He expected gold or ancient documents, but it was neither. Inside the box, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, was a strange object. It was a sphere made of interlocking rings of a smooth, dark metal he didn't recognize. In the center of the sphere, a crystal pulsed with a soft, gentle blue light. It was the source of the humming Arthur had written about. The light from the crystal grew a little brighter, then dimmer, in a slow, regular rhythm, like a heartbeat. Tucked beside the sphere was one last piece of paper, folded and sealed with wax. It was a final letter from Arthur. Liam gasped. It was addressed to him. If you are reading this, it means